Hello, thank you for joining us. I am Lynn representing the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders at the American Institute for Research, and I'm joined by my colleague, Lindsey Hayes, who is the author of the brief that we're going to talk about today. The brief called A Framework for Coherence, College and Career Readiness Standards, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, and Educator Effectiveness. I think it's fair to say that these three reform initiatives are pretty prevalent across the country, most particularly the College and Career Readiness Standards as well as the Educator Effectiveness Systems. Maybe not so much mentioned is the multi-tiered systems of support. Lindsey and I are kind of in a unique position because we are funded out of the Office of Special Education Programs within the work on the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders, and that allows us to focus on the educator quality side of work, but then also bring in the lens for special education. And what we saw in the field was really missed opportunities to really leverage these three reform initiatives.
So as Lynn alluded to, unfortunately there is sometimes a lack of coherence in the implementation across these three initiatives. When there is this lack of coherence, sometimes that can lead to teachers receiving mixed messages about the types of instruction that are good for students, including students who are struggling learners. So the purpose of this brief is to help identify some conceptual connections across these three initiatives that create an opportunity for coherence. This opportunity for coherence helps to improve on teachers' instructional practice, which ultimately leads to improved instructional outcomes for students. So this brief covers three distinct opportunities for coherence. The first opportunity for coherence is that alignment between these three initiatives creates an opportunity to create a shared focus on instruction. College and career readiness standards are really what drive this. College and career readiness standards, we know, will necessitate some instructional shifts for all students, but especially students who are struggling learners. We know that these college and career readiness standards represent an increase in rigor and also an increase in the depth of content. We know that creating an opportunity for a shared focus on instruction for students with disabilities means that students with disabilities are participating in accessing these college and career readiness standards, but they are receiving the type of instruction they need in order to achieve that target. This type of instruction includes systematic, explicit, direct instruction. It includes incorporating evidence-based practices that we know help students reach these college and career readiness standards. And when implemented in an aligned fashion, we know that this creates an opportunity to align standards with the type of instructions that students need. The second opportunity that creating coherence across these three initiatives gives us is the opportunity to create better instructional supports for students. Within a multi-tiered system of support, students can receive intervention at levels of intensity that increase throughout the multi-tiered system of support. At each of these levels, we know that the instructional framework provides opportunities for services and supports aligned to specific student needs. We know that these tiers of services and supports give students opportunities to access these college and career readiness standards using those evidence-based practices aligned to their specific needs. The third opportunity for coherence across these three initiatives is to create better professional learning supports for teachers. Within educator effectiveness systems, we know that the goal is to give teachers good feedback. An educator effectiveness system has an evaluation component plus a professional learning component that are combined to create an educator effectiveness system, the goal of which is to give teachers feedback that leads to improved instructional outcomes. Teachers of the most struggling learners, including students with disabilities, have very diverse roles and responsibilities. And we need to ensure that these educator effectiveness systems are giving the types of feedback that are aligned to these diverse roles and responsibilities. When there is coherence across the college and career readiness standards, multi-tiered systems of support, or the type of structure that students need in order to access these standards, and when these are aligned within the context of an educator effectiveness system, we receive the kind of feedback that lets teachers improve their instructional practice and ultimately leads to improved instructional outcomes for students. So these are the three opportunities that policymakers can have to create opportunities for alignment across these initiatives. And these are the form the focus of our brief.
I mentioned before that Lindsey and I have an opportunity to kind of bridge both worlds in terms of educator effectiveness, college and career readiness, and also in special ed. And I think that on the large part, there hasn't been a real focus on the type of instruction that needs to occur, evidence-based instruction for students with disabilities within an MTSS system. So we feel like this is a great opportunity to really focus in on that. And quite honestly, we wouldn't have had that opportunity had we not been funded out of the Office of Special Education Programs and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education within the DTL Center, because that allowed us to really take that perspective from the special ed lens to really see how these three initiatives can align. But it's not that easy. So we really need to think about what is it that needs to happen at an SEA level, at a university level, and then of course at a district level to make this really work. I think the primary thing is that focus on those evidence-based practices. That's critically important. If we want all students to be college and career ready, it's next to impossible if we're not really focusing on the type of instruction and support to get them there. And it's very important that we identify those, we integrate those within preparation programs, and that those are clearly articulated from pre-service to in-service in a very common set of expectations for teachers. That, I think, is going to be critically important. And we also need to realize that teachers on day one, when they get into the classroom, are not necessarily going to be able to implement all of these evidence-based practices with fidelity. So it's critically important that you do tie that to educator effectiveness so that there's that continual professional development that's happening. But there again, we need to make sure that we have clear and common expectations in instructional practice when we're preparing teachers all the way to when we're supporting them when they're in the actual classrooms. And a multi-tiered system of support is really an opportune framework to allow teachers to really think about what do I need to know at core in differentiating instruction for content, but then also what do I need to know to provide the type of specialized instruction and support to be successful. And this is just, in our view, a really great opportunity to leverage these three initiatives to really move the needle for students and really help build the capacity of teachers, all teachers, not just general special ed teachers, but all teachers to be able to support the learning needs of diverse learners, including students with disabilities.
So we encourage you to take a look at the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders website. That can be found at gtlcenter.org, and that will also include a link to our brief. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.